Logan Hayes, 34 years old, a dedicated park ranger stationed at Yellowstone National Park for nearly a decade. He had a reputation among colleagues for precision, focus, and a quiet intensity, traits that made him both reliable and somewhat solitary. Logan preferred the solitude of the early hours, pre-dawn inspections of trails, ranger cabins, and remote wildlife monitoring stations. His mornings were precise rituals: coffee, brewed at 5:30, breakfast measured for nutrients and energy, gear inspected twice, each rope knot checked, each battery charged, each flashlight lens polished. In the weeks leading up to mid-October 2016, Logan had received an unusual assignment: investigate reports of strange sounds emanating from a series of remote caves in the park's northern sector. Rangers had reported echoes, movements that did not correspond with wildlife, and a sense of unease among hikers who had passed near the area. The sounds were subtle, faint scratching, the clink of stone against stone, but persistent enough to warrant a thorough inspection. Logan's preparations were meticulous, almost ritualistic. He mapped the area using GPS coordinates supplied by the park's ranger station, cross-referencing old geological surveys with recent reports of animal and human activity. Each cave was cataloged with measurements of its entrance width, depth estimates, and photographic documentation of surrounding flora. His ATV was checked down to the last tire pressure, 32 psi on all four wheels. He packed a first aid kit, extra batteries for his flashlight, climbing ropes, a reinforced helmet, and personal communication devices. A satellite phone was included, though reception was unreliable in the northern canyons. Logan left the ranger station at 6:30 on October 14th. Weather reports indicated clear skies, temperatures hovering in the mid-40s Fahrenheit. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. He radioed the station once more before departing. Heading to northern caves, ETA 6 hours. Coordinates logged. It was the last confirmed transmission from him. The journey to the trailhead was routine. ATV tracks carved a narrow path through dense undergrowth, leaving only faint impressions for anyone who might follow. By 7:15, Logan had reached the first cave, a modest opening partially concealed by overgrown ferns and fallen logs. He recorded air temperature at the entrance, 42 degrees Fahrenheit, sketched the layout in his notebook, noted small animal tracks crisscrossing the floor. There was no indication of human presence, no litter, no footprints, nothing out of the ordinary. He moved to the second cave, similar in structure, slightly deeper, with a narrow corridor leading to a low chamber. Echoes bounced back as he spoke, his voice measured, deliberate, almost ceremonial. By 10:30, he had cataloged 3 caves, each entry carefully logged with GPS coordinates, sketches, and environmental observations. At 11:15, Logan paused for a short break. He removed his helmet, took a small snack, and sipped water from a stainless steel bottle. Notes in his journal indicated a sense of anticipation. He had been tracking illegal activity near northern caves for several weeks, an investigation unofficially sanctioned by the ranger station. Though vague, the notes hinted at concerns about trespassing, unauthorized camping, and possible poaching. Matters Logan had pursued before, often alone. He checked his equipment again, helmet secure, ropes coiled, sat phone in a pocket, and resumed the journey toward the northernmost cave, over a mile deeper into dense forest. By 13:42, GPS readings placed him further into the forest than expected. Elevation approximately 7,200 feet above sea level. Terrain became increasingly rugged. Rock outcroppings and fallen trees slowed his progress. Logan paused at the edge of a narrow ravine, scanning the surroundings for visual clues. Animal scat, broken branches, footprints. A sudden rustle in nearby underbrush caused him to pause, hand on his radio. But nothing emerged. The forest silent again. except for faint echoes of a distant stream. He descended carefully into the ravine, documenting each step. The northernmost cave entrance appeared shortly after, partially obscured by rockfall. Entry required careful navigation. Narrow passage forced Logan to crouch, then crawl, measuring the depth with a tape line, marking each 10-foot increment. At approximately 14:05, Logan made his last radio check with the station, his voice calm, professional, slightly hesitant. North cave secure? Interior clear? Descending to lower chamber. No unusual sounds reported. Yet his journal later revealed notes of uneasy feelings, movement within shadows, something beyond wildlife. He began detailed documentation. Air temperature 40 degrees Fahrenheit, cave depth estimated at 65 feet. Several stalagmites measured with a compass and tape measure. His journal entries were methodical. Careful observations about airflow, moisture, and the faint echoes of dripping water. These details, while mundane, indicated his disciplined nature, commitment to cataloging every variable. By 15:30, Logan had reached the farthest section of the cave. Narrow passageways forced him to crawl, headlamp illuminating jagged rock walls. He recorded minor findings: small bones of rodents, scratches on limestone walls, no evidence of humans. Yet faint marks in the dust suggested movement, footprints too blurred to identify species. He paused frequently, listening. Faint tapping echoes returned, irregular, not consistent with natural causes. Notes in his journal mentioned a sense of being watched, the hairs on the back of his neck rising. He documented each sound, its timing, intensity, with an almost obsessive precision. Back at the ranger station, colleagues monitored radio channels, noting the delay in Logan's updates. By 16:45, concern increased. Routine protocol required rangers to check in hourly. Logan had been silent for over 40 minutes. A call-in was initiated, first via radio, then by phone to known emergency contacts. No response. The station dispatch sent additional rangers to the trailhead. ATV tracks confirmed passage into the forest, but no further signals or visual sightings. The dense forest, deceptive, allowed someone or something to vanish without trace. The initial search party followed his tracks, noting broken branches, disturbed soil, signs of movement, but then nothing. No sign of struggle, no gear left behind, no footprints beyond the last known point. By 18 o'clock, the first searchers arrived at the cave's edge. Faint light from setting sun cast shadows over jagged rocks, creating an eerie atmosphere. A meticulous grid search began. Each square measured 10 by 10 meters. Volunteers and rangers calling Logan's name. A sense of urgency permeated the team, concern mounting with each passing minute. The forest seemed indifferent, still, concealing its secrets beneath dense foliage. By 1930, with fading daylight, the search was suspended. No trace of Logan Hayes found. His ATV remained at the edge of the clearing. Engine still warm, gear neatly packed. The scene, ordinary, yet profoundly unsettling, as if he had disappeared into thin air. Over the next several days, the search intensified. Additional rangers, volunteer hikers, and canine units were deployed. Each cave systematically checked, photographs taken, measurements logged. Small findings, broken branches, faint soil disturbances were cataloged, but yielded no concrete clues. Logan's sat phone, GPS device, and journal were later recovered from the clearing. Pages meticulously written, ending abruptly mid-sentence. No indication of struggle, only observations. The journal entries hinted at his concerns over unauthorized activity in the caves. Illegal camping, possible smuggling, but remained ambiguous. Colleagues and family described Logan as cautious, methodical, and highly capable in wilderness survival. trained in first aid, rock climbing, and emergency navigation. The lack of any distress signals, absence of personal effects in the cave system, and the precise state of his packed gear deepened the mystery. Authorities faced a perplexing situation: a trained ranger vanishing in the wild, leaving no clear signs of accident, foul play, or misadventure. Hypotheses ranged from animal attack, accidental fall into an uncharted crevice, to voluntary disappearance. Yet nothing fit the evidence precisely. As night fell on October 15th, searchers maintained a rotating watch, flashlights scanning the forest, radios crackling. A sense of unease settled among the team, the forest holding its secrets tightly. Logan Hayes' disappearance was no ordinary missing person case. It was an anomaly, a puzzle demanding meticulous investigation. And within the folds of Yellowstone's northern wilderness, the initial threads of a far more sinister story had already begun, silently, invisibly, waiting to be uncovered. By the morning of October 15th, search efforts had expanded significantly. Rangers, volunteers, and even local hikers were organized into grid teams, each responsible for a defined sector of the northern forest. The terrain was unforgiving. Steep inclines, fallen timber, and thick underbrush slowed progress. Dog units were deployed, bloodhounds trained to detect human scent. Noses pressed to the ground, tails stiff, ears twitching at the faintest hint of direction. But for hours, no trace of Logan Hayes emerged. The only constant was the ATV at the clearing. Engine cold now, yet positioned as though left just moments ago, gear still neatly arranged on the rack. Radios clicked with updates. Coordinators noted coordinates, search patterns, and timelines. Every ranger understood the gravity. A trained, methodical ranger vanished from one of the most remote areas of Yellowstone, without a sound. At 9:37, a ranger named Thomas Keegan recorded a critical observation. The ATV's engine oil dipstick indicated recent use. No unusual wear or tempering. Tire tracks leading into the forest matched Logan's known route, yet stopped abruptly near a shallow ravine approximately 250 meters from the clearing. Soil samples were taken. Disturbed earth consistent with a heavy footfall. But no drag marks, no signs of a fall. A digital compass and GPS recorded Logan's intended path. Devices later examined by the National Park Service to map potential search zones. Meanwhile, volunteers scoured accessible caves, measuring entrances, recording echo patterns, noting the same faint scratches Logan had documented the previous day. The lack of additional human traces heightened concern, as if he had disappeared intentionally, or had been removed. By midday, command teams convened at the ranger station. Satellite imagery and topographical maps were studied in detail. Prior aerial surveys cross-referenced for hidden ravines, small cave openings, and abandoned logging trails. Logan's sat phone signals were analyzed, last pinged at 14:05 the previous day, within 12 feet of a rock outcropping in the northernmost cave zone. Forensic specialists examined footprints near the ravine, partial impressions in damp soil, layered over animal tracks, impossible to conclusively attribute to a human without further evidence. Radio chatter captured slight static, then brief, unexplained signals. Minor interference, dismissed initially as atmospheric anomalies, but noted in logs. At 15:12, a hiker returning from a remote trail reported an unusual find. Broken branches led to a shallow depression, covered by fallen leaves. Indentations consistent with a human body having been laid or dragged there. Rangers examined the area. No remains visible, but soil and vegetation analysis indicated recent disturbance. Nearby, a small hand-drawn map on waterproof paper, apparently from Logan's personal journal, was recovered, listing cave entrances, environmental observations, and a cryptic note: movement beyond normal, shadows not from animals. The writing, precise and measured, suggested Logan's growing unease. His handwriting ended abruptly, mid-sentence, reinforcing the suddenness of his disappearance. Over the following days, search patterns expanded into a 5-mile radius. Helicopter units flew over northern canyons. Infrared scans attempted at dawn and dusk. Nothing conclusive. Rangers interviewed hikers and campers in surrounding areas. None reported seeing a man matching Logan's description. Surveillance footage from park entrances reviewed. Logan's ATV accounted for in previous days. No unusual activity observed. Investigators noted the absence of digital footprints. No cell phone calls, no GPS signal beyond the last known cave coordinates. An anomaly given Logan's reliance on modern tracking technology. Physical evidence at the scene required careful cataloging. Rangers photographed the ATV, noting tire tread, gear placement, and helmet condition. Soil and vegetation samples were collected near the clearing, analyzed for human DNA, animal interaction, and trace substances. A section of trail approximately 300 meters from the clearing was cordoned off. Faint drag marks detected along jagged rocks. Specialists speculated whether these indicated accidental movement, voluntary concealment, or something more sinister. Command logs emphasized the unusual nature of the disappearance. No panic, no signs of struggle, no abandoned personal effects. Every detail recorded meticulously. Every anomaly noted. Every theory documented. By October 20th, attention turned to Logan's personal effects recovered from the clearing. His journal, set phone, GPS device, and map case were analyzed for hidden clues. The journal included precise measurements of cave depth, ranging from 20 to 65 feet, and environmental observations such as air pressure, humidity, and mineral deposits. Interspersed were brief notes of concern, evidence of unauthorized presence, supplies moved, shadows. Unsettling. Forensic handwriting analysis confirmed authenticity, no indications of tampering. The set phone logs were examined by telecommunications specialists. Final signal 14:05 October 14th. Static thereafter. GPS coordinates plotted against terrain revealed no obvious dangers. Caves were accessible. No deep chasms unaccounted for. Yet Logan's presence vanished entirely. Volunteers and rangers began compiling timelines. Using photographic evidence, journal entries, and GPS data, investigators reconstructed the day minute by minute between 6:30 and 14:05. Logan had visited 4 caves, recorded observations meticulously, and prepared for the possibility of unauthorized human activity. Witness interviews revealed minor conflicts with nearby campers about illegal camping. Small confrontations reported in previous weeks, but nothing violent or threatening. Investigators cataloged these interactions, assessing potential suspects, though no direct link to a disappearance existed yet. By October 25th, search efforts had extended to aerial thermal imaging and drone surveys. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras scanned areas previously inaccessible on foot. Ledges, overhangs, and narrow ravines examined in detail. Initial passes revealed nothing. No heat signatures, no disturbances. No body. Ground teams combed every accessible crevice, marking coordinates, logging potential hazards, and noting subtle environmental changes. A small group discovered faint footpaths, previously unrecorded, likely animal, but inconsistent with Logan's route, each finding meticulously documented in case files, creating a detailed record for analysis. The psychological toll on searchers became evident. Teams reported hearing faint sounds at night, echoing footsteps, rustling foliage, brief glimpses of movement in peripheral vision. Nothing substantial, but unsettling. Command logs documented these reports, emphasizing procedural caution while acknowledging human perception limitations. Ranger supervisors stressed focus on tangible evidence, but noted the forest seemed unusually silent, oppressive in its stillness, as if concealing secrets beneath moss-covered stones. By early November, the case had gained media attention. News outlets reported a veteran ranger missing under mysterious circumstances. Public interest heightened as speculation ranged from accidental disappearance to foul play. Authorities maintained a neutral stance, emphasizing ongoing search operations, procedural thoroughness, and respect for the missing ranger's family. Logs and reports were systematically reviewed for anomalies, every possible lead examined. Yet months passed with no new sightings or evidence. The northern caves remained untouched by unauthorized visitors. Yet Logan Hayes' presence remained a ghostly imprint within the wilderness. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. On November 10th, a volunteer hiker reported skeletal remains partially wedged between rocks in a previously uncharted cavern approximately 1.8 miles from Logan's last known GPS coordinate. Rangers confirmed location, secured the area, and called in forensic teams. The initial visual inspection revealed disarticulated bones, partially obscured by sediment and moss, positioned as though deliberately concealed. No clothing remained intact. Fragments of a helmet and rope nearby. Detailed photographs, measurements, and environmental samples were taken immediately. The site was cordoned off. Evidence collected systematically for further forensic analysis. Preliminary examination by forensic anthropologists indicated blunt force trauma to the skull. RIB fractures consistent with a violent impact. Hands and forearms positioned as if resisting. No animal predation evident. Wounds appeared perimortem. Soil and sediment analysis suggested remains had been moved deliberately. Rot placement indicating concealment rather than accidental fall. Tools such as measuring tapes, calipers, and 3D scanners were used to document positions precisely. Each bone cataloged, labeled, and photographed, ensuring chain of custody for future legal proceedings. Investigators expanded scope to potential suspects. Focus shifted to individuals with knowledge of the park's terrain, previous conflicts with Logan, and ability to navigate remote cave systems. Interviews revisited previous altercations. Minor disputes over camping and trespassing, observations logged, cross-referenced with search data. Physical evidence such as broken branches, faint footprints, and disturbed vegetation became central in building a profile. As forensic specialists compared these details with tools, boots, and personal equipment of potential suspects. By late November, the investigation had a clear focal point. Evidence suggested intentional concealment, physical confrontation, and premeditation. Yet the northern wilderness remained largely unexamined. Caves and ravines forming a labyrinth that concealed more than just environmental hazards. Every recovered object, every GPS coordinate, and every journal entry would later play a critical role in unraveling the sequence of events, forming the foundation for understanding the mystery that had persisted since October 14th. Once the skeletal remains were secured, forensic teams began meticulous analysis. Each bone measured, photographed, and cataloged. Trauma patterns assessed in the lab. Skull fractures indicated significant blunt force. Angled, deliberate, consistent with impact from a heavy object. Rib fractures suggested defensive injuries, as if the victim had attempted to shield vital organs. No animal marks were present, ruling out predation. Soil analysis indicated layered sediment, suggesting the body had been placed and then partially buried deliberately. Small fragments of a rope, helmet, and other camping supplies recovered nearby matched Logan Hayes' inventory, confirmed through serial numbers and detailed journal records. Investigators concluded the disappearance was no accident. It was violent, intentional, premeditated. The investigative focus shifted toward potential suspects. The initial suspect pool was narrowed by proximity to the park, familiarity with rugged terrain, and previous conflicts with Logan. Rangers recalled repeated warnings about a local survivalist, Silas Carr, mid-40s reclusive, living illegally near park boundaries. Carr was known for his skill navigating caves, dense forest, and rugged cliffs. Rangers also remembered a series of confrontations over trespassing. While minor in nature, mostly verbal disputes, Carr's temperament was described as volatile, unpredictable, and territorial. Law enforcement decided Carr warranted further investigation. His property was placed under surveillance, noting movement patterns, possible concealment areas, and unusual behavior. In early December, investigators executed a search warrant on Carr's cabin. Inside, conditions were squalid yet organized. Supplies neatly stacked despite apparent disrepair. Blood-stained ropes were discovered in a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards, along with a shattered helmet, which forensic analysis would later link to Logan Hayes. Small fragments of camping equipment, bearing traces of human tissue, further corroborated the possibility of foul play. A partially burned journal was also found. Pages fragmented, charred, but legible entries detailed Logan's prior investigations into illegal smuggling operations within the park. The entries indicated Logan had suspected unauthorized movement of goods through northern caves, tracking patterns, estimating schedules, and noting potential suspects. These revelations provided a direct link between Logan's disappearance and Carr's known presence in the area. Forensic testing confirmed blood on the ropes matched Logan Hayes' DNA. Soil samples from Carr's cabin were consistent with sediment from the northern cave system. Fibers from Logan's clothing, recovered from the skeletal remains, were also identified in remnants found at Carr's property. Investigators reconstructed a timeline. Logan entered the northern caves on October 14th, encountered Carr, possibly unexpectedly, and was subjected to lethal force. Carr then attempted to conceal the body, moving it to a hidden cavern, partially covering it with rocks to delay discovery. The pattern of injuries, combined with the environmental placement of the body, suggested a sudden, violent confrontation rather than premeditated ambush. Yet evidence in Carr's cabin indicated he attempted to destroy incriminating materials. Journal pages, helmet fragments, ropes, a post-crime effort to obfuscate his involvement. Law enforcement officers coordinated with forensic anthropologists to examine trace evidence in the cave. Small soil samples, rock impressions, and remaining fibers were cataloged. Each finding reinforced the conclusion of intentional concealment. Every disturbance aligned with Carr's known abilities in navigation and survival. Witness statements from hikers and campers confirmed Carr's reputation for secrecy. They recalled seeing him in the vicinity days before the disappearance, moving silently through dense forest, sometimes at night. Investigators cross-referenced these sightings with Logan's known route, establishing potential points of contact within the northern cave network. On December 12th, Carr was formally apprehended. Officers reported he was calm yet evasive during initial questioning. His cabin and immediate surroundings had already yielded substantial physical evidence, sufficient to place him in proximity to Logan Hayes. Under structured interrogation, Carr initially denied involvement, citing ignorance of Logan's presence in the caves. Investigators presented forensic evidence: DNA, clothing fibers, rope fragments, and the partially burned journal. Slowly, under cumulative pressure, Carr's account shifted. He admitted to a confrontation in the northern cave, describing Logan as having stumbled upon him while he was hiding supplies. What was initially portrayed as a verbal dispute escalated unexpectedly. Violence ensued, and Logan Hayes was killed during the encounter. Carr's confession aligned with forensic analysis. Blunt force trauma indicated improvised weapons, likely the helmet or heavy rocks, consistent with Carr's account of an unplanned struggle. Body placement within the hidden cavern was deliberate, as noted in both physical evidence and Carr's description of moving Logan's body to conceal it. Investigators documented each element, comparing statements with GPS data, environmental analysis, and recovered journal entries. Every discrepancy and confirmation reinforced the reliability of the confession. Additional evidence, including Carr's attempt to burn Logan's journal and remove identifying items, demonstrated awareness of guilt and intent to obstruct justice. Throughout the investigation, law enforcement maintained careful attention to procedural integrity. Evidence logs meticulously recorded chain of custody for each item: helmet fragments, rope, journal pages, skeletal remains, soil samples, and GPS data. Laboratory tests confirmed consistency across independent analyses. Investigators reconstructed the timeline of October 14th. From Logan's departure at 6:30, progression through 4 caves, the final radio transmission at 14:05, to Carr's documented movements in the forest. Forensic mapping, combined with physical evidence, produced a coherent narrative. A trained ranger, meticulous and methodical, confronted a territorial survivalist in a remote cave and was killed during an unplanned encounter. Media reports at the time highlighted the chilling circumstances. The narrative emphasized Logan Hayes' methodical nature, the isolation of the northern caves, and the deliberate concealment of his body. Experts commented on the rarity of such disappearances within national parks, particularly involving experienced rangers. Public statements from the National Park Service stressed the thoroughness of investigative protocols, the cooperation between forensic teams, law enforcement, and volunteers, and the solemnity of uncovering a tragic incident in such a remote and natural environment. Carr's trial proceeded with extensive documentation. Forensic reports, witness statements, and the recovered journal formed the foundation of the case. Each item linked Carr to the scene. The evidence corroborated timeline reconstructions, and his partial confession aligned with physical findings. Legal proceedings emphasized intent, premeditation, and the deliberate attempt to conceal the crime. Carr's defense attempted to argue accidental confrontation. Yet forensic data, the condition of Logan's remains, and the deliberate relocation of the body provided compelling contradiction. By mid-2017, the case reached resolution. Carr was convicted. The investigation had confirmed every stage of the encounter, from Logan Hayes' disciplined preparation and final movements to the violent confrontation and deliberate concealment of the remains. The case illuminated the dangers inherent in remote wilderness areas, underscored the meticulous nature of investigative work, and highlighted how even the most careful individuals can be vulnerable to unpredictable human threats. Logan Hayes was remembered as a dedicated ranger, meticulous, brave, and thorough, whose disappearance initially baffled experts, but whose methodical notes, equipment, and dedication ultimately provided the framework to solve the case. The resolution brought closure to months of uncertainty. Physical evidence, forensic analysis, witness testimony, and suspect confession converged to reconstruct the tragic events. Yellowstone's northern caves, silent witnesses to a deadly confrontation, finally revealed the hidden narrative. Every log entry, GPS coordinate, and journal note played a critical role in unraveling the mystery, demonstrating the interplay between human observation, forensic science, and investigative diligence. In the end, the disappearance was not a mystery of nature, but a deadly collision of human intent and circumstance, resolved through patient, meticulous investigation, bringing justice to Logan Hayes and accountability to Silas Carr. Every other day, we share a new baffling missing 411 story. Subscribe and discover more.